Hello and welcome back to A Byte of Code. Today I'm going to teach you how to create a save file so you can save information to it, load it whenever you want. This is going to be a very simple, easy way using a already existing package that a lot of programs use and other programs can easily decipher if you want your file. So we're going to be using Newtonsoft, which is a very popular package for creating C# objects into a text file where you can easily read it. So we are going to first go to the Solution Explorer, right click on Dependencies, and then manage NuGet packages. Now in the top left, click Browse if you're not already here. So when you're here, go to Newtonsoft.json. It should be near the top. If not, you can just search for JSON. And then on the right side here, hit Install. Now it should pop up a Preview Changes window. So just hit OK. And that's it to install that framework. So right now, we just have a regular C#.NET Core program, console program. So we're not going to need this console write line. First, we're going to need a way to write to a file since we're making a save file. So we are going to be typing using parentheses stream writer SW equals new stream writer, and then at the end of those parentheses do your brackets. Now if this is not green, just hover over it, hit the light bulb. I can do that now. Hover over it, light bulb, using system.io, or you can just type it up top. Now stream writer's red because when you initialize a new one, it requires a stream or a path or a bunch of other stuff. But we're going to give it a path. So let's make a variable called path. I'm going to make it null for now, but I'm going to pass in the path variable into it. So the stream writer is going to read the file that we give the path to. Now let's actually create the path, because it won't work if you just do null. So I'm actually going to go between these two. I'll make path equal to environment dot get folder path, and then environment dot special folder dot my documents. So what this function does is that it returns the path of your documents folder, so we can find this file easily. Now if we just use this path, it's going to save, like, I don't think it would work correctly. You need a path plus the file name. So to do that, we're going to do path equals path dot combine parentheses. We're going to pass in path, and we're going to pass in the name of the file we want. So I'm going to do savefile.txt. I am going to rename this to file path to make it more less confusing. And don't forget to change your stream writer path too. Okay, so to go through what we just did, we have a path variable which is being set to the My Documents folder. So it grabs the My Documents folder path, and then it creates a new variable called file path, and it combines the My Documents folder and the text file we want to make. Cool. So now if we want, we can just do sw.write, give it a value, so test, and then semicolon. So now if we run this program, it should show up in our My Documents folder with what the sw.write is. So yep, it didn't crash. Now I'll pull up that text file for you guys. I'll go to My Documents folder, and then at the bottom should be whatever you named your thing. So save file.txt, and there's the value we wrote. Cool. So we got saving a file, but it's not saving data that can easily be read back, especially if you want to save more than just one line. So with our Newtonsoft thing that we wrote, we can go to the very top of our main, type Newtonsoft.json.json convert .deserialize object. Now you put parentheses and then the object that you want to deserialize. So deserialization is turning a object from like a class object, and it's turning it into a string value that can easily be serialized back into the program. So we can just give it a string value for now. So let's name this one test2, and this returns, oh sorry, I got that backwards. We want to serialize the object. So serialization is putting the .NET object into a string, while deserialization is taking that string file back into a .NET object. So we are going to make this test2 string. We're serializing it, so we need to save the result. Serialized object. So now we have a serialized object. It's going to serialize the string text2. Now instead of our sw.write, we can just give it the serialized object. We can run it. Cool. So now if we go back to our text file and reload it, you can see how it serialized that new value. Now you're thinking, cool, but I don't want to serialize just strings. Can I do other stuff? And the answer is yes. So what you can do is that any class you make, you can serialize and save. So let's just say public class living object. In this class, we'll have a string name, and let's just say there's a int age. So we get this new class called living object, and it has a name and age property. So now, if you create a new instance of that object, so var dog equals new living object, then we can do dog.age equals 4, dog.name equals spot. So instead of passing in this string value, we can pass in the dog object, and then we can run it and see what happens to the file. Sweet. So as you can see, it has the name property and the value spot, and the age property and the value 4. So that's awesome. So we can close the window, and as you can tell, if you have all this stuff is on one line, so if you want to change that whenever you serialize it, you can give it a new parameter. As you can see, you can also take JSON.formatting. So we're going to type in the Newtonsoft.json.formatting .indented. Now what that does, it makes every property on a new line, so you can easily pinpoint stuff out better. This is how I prefer it. It's easier to debug and read bigger save files. Cool. So you serialize the object and we're writing it. So what if we want to serialize a more complex class, like some inheritance? So what if we make another public class? Let's name this human, and that will implement the living object, because humans are living according to science. So this person will have a public string name. Also have, let's just say, gender. No, that's not. That's unique that humans have. I'm gonna rename this to a species name. Let's just name it job, because that's unique to humans. So I've updated the species living object to species name. So don't forget to change that up here from the dog name. And created a human that implements living object. If you don't know what this colon means, it means that it has all the properties in this object, in this class. And then this is ones that are unique to the human ones. So we have a dog. Let's just comment that out for now. Okay, so we comment those out. Let's make a new one. Human equals new human. Human will have age. Let's just say 25. Human's job is a software developer. Human's species name, just say human for now. And humans dot name Bob. So as you can tell, the human class only has name and job. Name and job. But it also still has the properties of the ones that it implements. So it still has age and species name. Now instead of dog that we serialize, let's serialize the human. Let's see what happens. Cool. So it kept all the properties like that. So implementation of classes like that, very easy to do for saving it. But loading it, you have to do something that always trips me up. So let me look at this. Let's create one more class, because I feel like I left the dog out. Class just name it Earth. Doesn't implement anything. This will have a public list of living objects. Put our getter setters. Just put equals new list at the end so we don't get null values. If list shows up red, hover over it, and then add the using system.collections.generic. That should get rid of the red underline under the list. So now we have an earth object. Let's just go up at the top here. Var earth equals new earth. And then we can keep our dog back. So let's uncomment that. Keep human. Now underneath all those new objects, we can do earth.add. Sorry, earth.livingObjects.add. We add the dog. And we can make a new line and add the human. So earth now holds the dog and the human. And on our serialization, change human to earth. There you go. Let's run it. See what happens. There we go. We got our living objects, and then we have these square brackets that indicates it's a list. So our first element is a dog, age 4, and our second one is Bob, software developer, human, age 25. So the serialization is smart enough to know that you're not just a living object, you're an implementation. So like the human. So you have more properties than just a regular living object like a dog does. So they only have 2 and humans have 4. So it automatically knows how to save those properties. So you might be saying, that's pretty cool how you can save stuff, like auto save stuff like that, just add it onto the class and it saves. How would you load it? Well, for that, it is pretty simple. You just do another using. This would be a stream reader, sr equals new, and then you need that path. So file path. So now let's make a variable above it called string contents. This will be from the file. So sr or content equals sr.read to end. So that will read the entire file and put it into the content variable. Read from file. Save to file. Convert object to string. Okay. So we got the string value from the file that we create. Now we can now do Newtonsoft .json convert now we want to deserialize it. Remember, deserialization is taking a string value and turning it back into a object. So with that, we do the less than and greater than sign, and then we put the type of object that we're getting back. So we serialize a earth object. So we are going to deserialize the earth object. And then after the greater than less than signs, you do your parentheses and then the content variable, which has the string from the file. Now this returns the earth object back. So let's save it to a variable. Our earth returned equals our JSON. Cool. So if you want to see if it works, just put a little breakpoint on that line. If you don't know how to do breakpoints, you click on the left side of the numbers, and when the program gets to that, it'll stop right there and you can look at all the variables. So now if you run it, you can see it stops here. You can mouse over content, you can see that text file we create. And then if we step over it, so F10, or this button up top, and then mouse over it, you can see there's two things. So that they both came back as living objects, which is not really correct, because one's supposed to be a person, right? A human. But you can see that both of their properties, the ones they have in common, are there correctly. So what the issue is that when it tries to deserialize it, it says, oh, I know Earth is from living object, and living object has species name and age. So whenever I convert it, I'm going to find the species name and age on all the elements, and I'm going to make that object. But it doesn't know that one of these is a human object. So they don't know what to do with all the unique stuff like job. In order to fix that, there is a variable you need to pass into this serialized object. And I'm pretty sure it's called Newtonsoft.json. Let me find it. Okay, JSON serializer settings. Let's make a new one of our JSON settings. If I can type what I say, that'd be nice. So JSON settings dot, we need to change the type name handling property to equal Newtonsoft.json.type name handling dot, I believe objects will work, but I always keep it all. So now we created the JSON settings. Now we have to pass it into our serialized object. So I believe at the end here, we just pass in the variable. Yep, JSON settings. So that was serialized correctly. And don't forget, whenever you serialize it with settings, you have to deserialize it with the settings. So let's pass in the JSON settings. So now when we run it, we'll create that save file, and there'll be a lot more information in here now. So it tells it that the object is serialized is from your project.earth class, and that in the list array, it's a type of list of your living object. And then each living object in here tells it what class type it is. So living object is for the dog value we got, but in the other one, it knows it's a human type. So whenever it deserializes, like it does now, you see one's living object and one's human. So the human one has all the properties loaded and correctly there. There are some other advanced JSON stuff with this application, the package Newtonsoft. I can show you a few, but there's just a whole bunch. You can add custom handling for each class or property, but some easy ones is Newtonsoft.json. JSON ignore. So whenever it generates the file or read the file, open the file, reload it, yes. So now you can see it ignored that species name field and it's gone off all the classes. So that's if you just don't want to show a value. There's a bunch of other ones. I'll leave a link in the description below to the documentation so you can see a bunch of all the other features. But this is pretty much it for just creating a save file where you can just load and save it easily. I mean, you can just keep adding on to this one earth file and everything will save correctly. You don't have to change any data settings, serialization. So it's pretty easy, just a one change place to keep your application, all the information in it saved. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go over this one last time, what each part does. So we create a new earth object. That earth holds a list of living objects. So it's holding a object called dog. It's holding an object called human. And we added both of those to the living objects. Cool. So we create a new JSON serialization settings. Change the type name handling to all, because if you don't do that, it doesn't know any polymorphized class. It doesn't know their properties. So we leave it all, and then we convert it to a string by using JSON convert.serialize. We give it the object we want to turn to a string, and then we give it the indented, which you don't have to do, and then we give it the settings, which will apply the class name to it. Now I want to save in the file. We get the folder path of the My Documents folder. This can be any other folder path you want. We combine that My Documents folder path with the file name we want, plus the extension. We create a new stream writer with the file path, and then it writes the string value from the serialized object. That's how you save. To read from a file, you just do the stream writer and then save the content to a variable. And then to get that object back, just do .deserialize, put the object type in the brackets, pass it in the string we get from the file, and pass it the settings. And that's how you get your object back. That's pretty much it. I hope if you guys need any help, just leave a comment. I'll try to help below. If you want to see any other projects you want me to show you how to make, I will certainly take those into account for my next videos. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.